have shepherded over have turned against me. They have broken the holy covenant between me and you. They have whored themselves with idols, whom they have crafted with thine own hand, and they have bowed themselves and worshipped these abominations. They have said, blessed be these idols, whom have led and provided for them 1,000 years. Since they have done this thing and taken my blessing and given it to the idols, my wrath is poured out upon the whole world. A decrepit sickness has been unleashed into the world, for all of their wickedness and worshiping death. They shall become decrepit things, spreading death. This is my judgment on all those who transgress my laws and who have defiled my covenant. Death. Death. But not for you and your brother. You shall stay here in my holy mountain as I test the entire world to see if they shall serve me or choose death. I have spoken, so shall it be.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Word of the Most High Yah. I'm your host, Priest of the Most High, Lucifer the Lambew. And today we're going to be, Yah willing, finishing up the book of Deuteronomy, the 5th book of the Bible, which is otherwise the first five books of the Bible, otherwise known as the Torah. Y'all willing, we can finish it up this episode. If not, we'll just do a new episode. Y'all willing. Now, recruits, want to let you guys know that there should be a downtime between, uploads. I think the next few days, just a couple of days, I think. During this time, recruits, we're willing to be short, but I would suggest that you review the Word of the Most High Yah series, review the other series that we have, those that you haven't seen before or haven't watched in its totality. It'd be a good time to do so. Along with the Word of the Most High Yah series, of course, is the Lampshade seasons 1 through 7. It's kind of like a buddy series to the Word of the Most High Yah, because the Word of the Most High Yah is based on the information necessary to go out into those street corners, and the Lampshade season 1 through 7 is the videos of the ministry out there on the street corners. So one is preparation and the other is execution, and both of those are available. Yah willing, if you have the time to go through it, hopefully you do, it would be highly suggested that you do so. Before I get into this too, you have to understand, Lambew's Ministries is also just under attack, like many of these other camps and whatnot that tell the people the truth about the scriptures and what's coming and what is happening. That isn't part of the mainstream media lie, deception. It isn't part of Esau's financial gainsaying in order to turn the truth into a lie. It isn't part of the 501c3. That isn't part of the monetization and getting donations and basically money from people in order to bring out the word, which of course the word is for free, as the scriptures say. Okay, so you got all these alphabet soups that are investigating the men of God that are true men of God that are doing and bringing out this truth with sincerity, bringing out this truth in spirit and in truth with vigor and fire, and who aren't trying to change it and razzle it, dazzle it up in order to suit the tender feelings of different aspects of the society, aka mainly the supplicant white man. Alright, so we've had some I think we've had some memory, some I'm not the technical guy, so please bear with me, but memory sticks or whatnot, backup memory for the computers that has gone down. We suspect due to cyber warfare from these alphabet soups that has had an effect on the stored memory of some of our earlier works or earlier stuff, but of course those things were backed up, and y'all willing, we still have capacity to create new content, continue creating the series that Most High has us doing and continue doing the work. But it is of note, it has not escaped our notice that these alphabet soups, with their cyber warfare technology that they've been using everywhere else, would take the time to see it fit to try some of those cyber warfare attacks on the ministry. So, I mean, just a heads up to the other Israelite groups, the other Israelites that come and watch these videos, that, of course, a heads up that the government, the alphabet soups, doesn't just use these cyber tactics to try to frame Russia for meddling, or they don't just use these cyber tactics to try to punish North Korea or whatever not. They actually, this technology trickles down to actually being utilized, or trying to be utilized, to attack truth-giving sites and truth-giving web pages and whatever not as well, domestic as well as international, right? Now, wrapping the fallacy with us particularly is because we have control of all of our content. We have, backups to backups to backups. We actually create this content, much of which is done in-house, so it's not as vulnerable to being like erased or destroyed, or certain types of malware and all that kind of good stuff. But they are trying. They have attempted to do so, and they have done some cyber warfare, but it is not successful in what they want to do, which is to bring down this ministry, to bring down this channel, to stop the truth from getting out. But of course, even if they were successful, even if it did occur, even if it did happen, in terms of, heaven forbid, the ministry going down, as one of the possible ways that would be accomplished. We know the Spirit's already telling us this is our 7th year of doing the ministry, doing the work. and that it is very possible that something occurs that could mean the end of the ministry. These alphabet soups definitely want it to be them, but y'all willing, that's not even going to be the case. Alright, so keep that in mind, recruits. In the coming days, if you see a bit of a lull or see a bit of a stall or whatever, not, we're getting our systems online and getting our systems tweaked and peaked, and y'all willing, you're not getting rid of us yet, unless of course it's the anointing. Y'all willing that be the case. All right, so let's go ahead and finish up with the book of Deuteronomy. Today we're going to be going over, y'all willing, the different curses of Israel, some of the things that the Most High was talking about. Yes, we know that's covered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verses 15 through 68, but it's also covered, some of them are covered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 as a whole. They have some curses in there, and it also has the Most High's response to what the children of Israel was doing. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into that, so that we can get the finishing touches on the Torah. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 21. Let's see here. All right, see if we can get through this relatively smoothly. Verse 1. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herbs, and as the shores upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. And that's what we're doing through this ministry and through all the other ministries, all the other Akim out there on the street corners. We are, we're giving praise to the Most High's name. We're publishing it. We're letting it be known, and not just the Most High's, not just in the carnal in terms of like His name, but in the spirit in terms of like in our representing Him in our life and in our ministry and in our work, in this work for Him, and in our walk, this walk for Him. So publishing His name is not just these different camps walk around there saying that their name of the Most High is the name of the Most High. That's not necessarily, carnally that's what they're talking about, but spiritually it's talking about more than just that. It's talking about how you represent the Most High, how you live your life, whether this be true for you or whether it's just be a talking point, whether it be real for you or whether it just be a source of income, the way that you get props or get notoriety, or how you choose to try to make your mark in the world. So representing the Most High is a form of publishing His name, because He put His name on His children, the Israelites, His inheritance, and it's those who are and who live in His inheritance in terms of representing Him that truly show the mark of the Most High, on them. And of course, as that inheritance and that mark manifests to the height of its manifestation, is of course the anointing and the 1/3. Alright, so let's continue. Verse number 4. He is the rock, His work is perfect, for all His ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is He. So the Most High is our salvation, the Most High is our rock, the Most High is just without iniquity. The Most High is all those things. And in this, the Most High is really revealing for all to see, for all to read, for all to hear and understand, if it be the Most High's will, His qualities, the things that make the Most High, the Most High. And the things that His children, His inheritance, those who publish His name, the fundamental qualities that they emulate in their life to the best of their ability. See, that's why truth is so important. That's why you can't get this truth from anyone else other than the Israelites of Scripture, who have been raised up by the Most High and has the Spirit of the Most High on them to teach this truth and sincerity. Because without the truth, you really have nothing. And none of these other nationalities, none of these other people on the earth, and especially not the T.M.H, none of these heathens have the truth, because the truth doesn't benefit them. They turn the truth into a lie to suit their egos, to suit their delusions of grandeur. They're not going to tell you the real deal. They're not going to tell you straight up. And of course, the Spirit of the Most High ain't on them, because you need more than just you need more than just the truth. You also need the Spirit to be able to understand and to be able to articulate and be able to break down and give the truth from the Scriptures to the best of your ability in the Spirit of the Most High. That's why you need Spirit and truth. You gotta have the Spirit of the Most High, which comes to the Israelites, because you know the Most High ain't dealing with these other nations, and you gotta speak in truth, regardless, regardless that the chips fall where they may, to the best of your ability. All right, so let's keep going. Verse 5. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are perverse and crooked generation. Now, again, this is what we was just talking about, recruit. What we was just talking about. How, all right, he's referring to the Israelites, but he's saying that the Israelites that are a perverse generation, that are hypocritical, that their walk and their life doesn't represent him, doesn't reflect his name being published on their hearts, being published on their mind, being published on their walk and their ways. That generation that he's referring to is a crooked generation, and he's basically saying that they're not his people because they're not acting like his people. I mean, it's not just circumcision of the flesh, it's circumcision of the heart, and you need both. And that's the same thing, that's the difference between the 1/3 and say these 2/3 out there. The 2/3 are the ones that are Israelites in the flesh, but they're Gentiles, they're heathens in their hearts. They ain't got their hearts circumcised, they ain't trying to circumcise it, they haven't come back to the Most High in truth and sincerity. There's no truth in them, they ain't talking no truth. They're not interested in the truth, they're just interested in Esau's lies and binding hand in hand together as the coons they are with these other nations. Those guys, that generation of people, that 2/3 is in the spirit what he's talking to. He's saying those guys aren't his people. But see, there's those in this generation that are not his people, and there's those in this generation that are his people, that do have the name of the Most High in their hearts and their minds, that do publish his name in their actions and their walk to the best of their ability, and coming back to him and following his law, statutes, commandments in truth and sincerity, and doing the work that he has put before us in that spirit, in his spirit. So, again, in the carnal, he's talking about the past, but in the spiritual, supernatural, he's talking about today, and he's separating those two groups, all of which being Israelites, of course, but some of which are acceptable, and the other ones are not. And he's particularly talking right now to those that are not acceptable, because they do not have their hearts circumcised, because they only just rely on the flesh, because they only just rely on the carnal, and these that he's talking about lack the spiritual, the desire for the spiritual. All right, so let's continue. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people, and unwise? Is not he the Father that hath brought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? See, he's talking to Israel, but he's talking to the rebels among Israel. He's talking to the Israelites that, again, are only of the flesh, that haven't circumcised their heart, nor do they even see the need to have their heart circumcised. And this is the reason why the scriptures have said in the New Testament that the flesh profit you nothing, because without the circumcision of the heart, without having both, the flesh in and of itself, left by itself, is not enough. It's kind of like when the Most High says that faith without works is dead. Faith is good. I mean, don't get it twisted. Just like being an Israelite of the blood lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is of note too. Is good as well. I mean, for lack of a better term, I'm not going to say necessarily good, but it has value. That's why the Most High refers to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because it does have a value. But again, like it is written, faith without works is dead. Having the flesh, having the blood lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, too is there's no profit to you without having your heart circumcised, without having the relationship with the Most High, because that's what Yeshua was talking about when he was referring to the Gentile, when he was referring to the Sadducees, or Pharisees, shall I say. He was referring to the Pharisees, and they were like, we're children of Abraham, and now Yeshua was basically saying, hey, Abraham loved the Most High. If you were children of him, if you were children of Abraham, then you would be rejecting Yeshua, and you would be rejecting the Most High. But what he was really, the precept that he was really alluding to, even more clear, is that your heart, your walk, your relationship shows more about what your lineage is, and whether you're the apple of his eye or not, than your flesh. Your flesh is important, don't get it twisted, but and that's why we say make sure that you're learning from an Israelite of the flesh, of the blood lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, of the lineage of Judah. But not just the flesh, because they also have to have their heart circumcised. They also have to return back to Most High's law, statutes, commandments to the best of their ability, and love the Most High and be doing it for the right reasons. Those are all very important things when choosing or when just trying to discern where one can get the word and where one should get the word. Of course, you always want to make sure that you pray on it. You always want to make sure you're studying to show yourself approved, and you're not just taking the words of men in any capacity. All right. Okay, so let's continue. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show you. And he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee. And again, I believe we talked about this before, but you definitely want to remember the days of old. You want to make sure that through studying to show yourself approved and seeing what these Gentiles have done to our ancestors, what they've done to us in this captivity, because they're not able to pull the same wool over your eyes. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to keep taking children. They're not going to keep lynching people. It doesn't mean that, because they're going to keep poking their finger in the eye of the Most High, poking their finger in the inheritance of the Most High until the Most High stops them. Right? They're going to keep doing that. But it's to say that, you're not going to be sitting there cheering them on. You're not going to be sitting there putting your faith in them. You're not going to be sitting there turning a blind eye to all the things that they're doing and make believing in your head delusional that somehow they're your friends, that somehow they're your, they're your people, that somehow they're working for your best interest, because you're not going to do that. Because those who are astute and study history, which the scriptures in the carnal aspect is a history book, we're not ignorant of the devices of these devils, because it's recorded in the scriptures. All right, verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according. Now is the time, O Israel.
to make your choice. Come back to serving the God of Israel in spirit and in truth. While there's still time, the Most High has sent His servants to guide you in His ways. Put your faith in Yahshua HaMashiach, for this is the way, O Israel. Walk therein, or choose the world to your peril. Their hearts for Him are cold. Choose wisely, but be not lukewarm. For in that day, those of you who are lukewarm, He will spit you out of His mouth, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So choose, and choose now. According to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is His people. Jacob is the lot of His inheritance. He found him in a desert land, and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of His eye. So Jacob's the apple of His eye. And I know we went over this, I think the last episode, y'all willing, but some of these things, but there's a lot of this chapter we didn't go over, and we're going to make sure that we go over every single verse. So for those of you who have already heard these particular verses, again, you can always get something new every single time, and for those who haven't, you're going to get some very, very interesting stuff. This telecast, in the sense that this is all the roundup of the book of Deuteronomy, y'all willing. Okay, so here we go. Verse 11, as an eagle stirreth up
her nest, fluttereth over her young, and spreadeth abroad her wings, taking them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange gods with him. So the Most High is the one who led us. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the field. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine, and milk of sheep, with fat of lamb, and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat, and thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. So these are basically all the good things, blessings, so to speak, that the Most High has given Israel by the relationship that Israel has with the Most High. But Jerusalem waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxed fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook God, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. So see, this is a treachery that our ancestors and ourselves have done. See, because the Most High has, even like, all right, in the carnal, back in those days, he brought them into the land of milk and honey. He gave them himself as their God, you know, their father, their rock of their salvation. And what did they do? They went and they cheated on them with these other gods, false idols, and so forth. That's the carnal. That's what happened back in the day, but also even today. Yes, he led us into Babylon. Yes, this has been a 400-year punishment for the sins of our forefathers as well as our own sins. And yet, the so-called Negroes have eaten and drinking. You know, I mean, they're not starving out like they do in Africa and these other African nations. They're not. Our people don't have all the flies on us and all that kind of good stuff. They're not dying of starvation in mass. We're not dying of starvation in mass. So he has protected us and cultivated us and helped us even in this time of tribulation, even in this time of our 400-year curse because of our transgressions. And yet, what do our people do? We have people who are still running after, chasing after these other nations, still chasing after these other gods, gods of wood and gods of stone, and still ultimately the two-third ultimately will be rejected. Who still, or shall I say, the rebellious will be rejected and won't make it to the land of milk and honey. And that's who he's talking about. That's what he's talking about in the spirit right now. Okay, so let's continue. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, with abominations provoked him to anger. These abominations that our people are doing right here, right now, as we speak, as we listen to this telecast, the joining hands in hands with these Edomite, these suppliant white man, these devils, the joining them in their wickedness, the transgender filth, gay marriage, legalization of gay and lesbian marriage in all 50 states. They're joining them in their, all the drugs and parties, just all the stuff that's against the scriptures, against the word of God. It's against what the Most High has instructed Israel to do. So even though the Most High has been protecting them, us, they still want to act up and go off. Okay. And provoke them to anger with their abominations. They provoke him to jealousy with strange gods, with abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrifice unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Right? That's the JC deception. That's the Muhammad guy deception. That's, the white versions of just the white versions of all the characters in this book, in the book of the Bible and the Word of God. All these fake white images, European images, these fake representations, following and chasing after all of them is what the Most High is talking about. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee. You see, this is a real big hit against those coon Negroes who care not or think not about the life that their people had before slavery, before coming to this country on those slave ships. They care not about the God of their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the real God, the true God, the creator of heaven and earth, the one to whom our ancestors walked in the garden with, because it wasn't the supplicant white man, it wasn't the so-called white man, it wasn't the so-called Arabs, it wasn't the so-called Japanese, Chinese, it wasn't any of them. It was the so-called Negroes, it was the so-called black man, it was our ancestors that walked with the Most High in the Garden of Eden. And our people today, these coons among us, these enemies of Israel from among us, still chasing after these other nations, they don't think, they think not of the God of our forefathers in truth. They think somehow that by serving some white image and getting good or trying to get good with the supplicant white man, that somehow they're serving the Most High, and they're not. You can't serve the Most High if you're serving Him in lies and untruths and delusions and deceptions. That's not serving the Most High. And you can fool people, you can fool flesh and blood, you can fool, as it is written, the blind leadeth the blind into a ditch. You can fool some blind people, but you can't fool the Most High. And He's the only one that really matters, right? I mean, what He thinks is the only thing that really matters. Not some blind dope that you can get to believe in your white image or in their white image. Okay? And when the Lord saw it, He abhorred them because of the provoking of His sons and of His daughters. And He said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith. And that's exactly what happened, and that's exactly why these things have happened to the children of Israel, to our people. Most High hid His face from us. Not forever. Because even in that He said that He will see what will be our end. He will see what will happen to us, to our ancestors, to our people, to us. And you can't see what happens to us if He would hide His face forever, right? So He's gonna He hid His face, and at some point He's gonna start looking again. Now we know through the scriptures again that that's the 400-year curse, and we're right at the end of that, and it really can happen any day now. Already He's looking. That is our faith, but that's also the message that He has given the men of God. That's why we're out there on those street corners. That's why we're here doing the work of the Most High, because we're giving the message that He's been giving to those of us who He has returned back to Him to the best of our ability, and that He's giving the message to. All right, but let me go and read verse 20 again, because these qualities are very important. Then He said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a forward generation, children in whom is no faith. So faith, again, is so very important, recruit. So very important that you make sure that your faith is where it needs to be, that you practice faith in the little things, so that you can have it built up for the bigger things. Tell God, work with God, the Most High, about the faith in the things that you can reasonably expect to be done. Like, for instance, exercise your faith in your rent being paid. Exercise your faith in water to drink, exercise your faith, and food to eat. Take stock of those things. Rehearse the things that you normally would take for granted to yourself, to your spirit, and and recognize that it's the Most High that provides those things, so that the bigger things that can come about. You've already built yourself up by the faith in the other stuff and recognizing the other stuff, so that when the big stuff happens, your faith is strong and ready. You know, it's developed. You can call on it. You can pull it down. It can comfort you, right? I mean, the scriptures is the stability of these times. But without faith, how can you be stable? It doesn't matter if you're reading what the Most High did for King David, the Most High did for Israel, for Judah. If you have no faith that those things can and will be done for you, for your people, for Israel, for your situation. So you have to have faith, not just information. As it's talking about right here, how important it is. Okay, verse 21. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not of people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. And we already went over that being the Jewish, being the foolish, the Jewish being that which is not a people, and America being one of the very things that are a foolish nation. And of course, any nation is foolish to have put their hands on the apple of the Most High's eye, because that's what he's coming. That's what he's coming back for. He's coming back for a payback. So any nation that's put its hand on us, has put its hands on us, has collaborated with the Edomites, has come to a confederacy with the Edomites against us, they're a foolish nation because they're going to be punished. That's what he's coming back for. That's what he is revealing. Any nation that has, or any people that have stolen our history, tried to be us, tried to act like us, fake as us, shall I say, and have put their hands on us to destroy our history, put their hands on us to destroy our language, our culture. They're not going to be a people when the Most High is done with them, Yah willing. That's why he's saying. That's why he says that these nations will get spoiled, and he's going to, bring them down, and he's going to humble man, right? Because the only one who's going to be established is going to be Israel, and everybody else is going to be underneath that. Verse 22. And again, there's carnal applications for what the Most High is talking about. In the carnal, he was saying about the Jewish and America. But in the spiritual, in the broader text, he's talking about anybody who has done or does those things that the Jewish did, which is try to steal our heritage, try to steal our nationality, try to steal, the scriptures from us. And he's talking about any nation that collaborated and put their hands on the children of God. Okay, verse 22. For a fire is kindled in my anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. See, this, he's going to do it. He's going to come against this earth. He's going to, like he said the first time with Noah's flood with water, this time coming up is going to be with fire. indignation, his wrath. It's not going to be, the day of the Lord is not going to be a day of light, as he says, as is written, but a day of darkness. You know? I will heap mischiefs upon them. I will spin mine arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. These are all descriptions. Now, of course, in the carnal, he's talking about that generation that, again, had no faith in him that he gave the qualities for. We read the qualities for them. But in the spirit, he's also talking about today. You know, he's talking about these nations that have the foolish nations and the people who are who will be no people. Right? He's talking about them too in the spirit, because these are the things he's going to do to these nations when he reveals who the children of God are, when he reveals who his inheritance is and who it's not, when he gives power to the kingship and Judah, he empowers Judah to reestablish Israel and take command. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the sucking also with the man of gray hairs. I said I would scatter them into the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. All right. Now, in the carnal, he's talking about in the past. He's talking about how he scattered Israel. He scattered us to the four corners of the earth, he put us in all these different nations or whatever not. And the memory of who we were has ceased from among men. Right? You know, for almost 400 years, no one knew that we're the Israelite scriptures, so-called Judah, the so-called Negroes, not so-called Judah, but so-called Negroes here in America are the children of Judah. We're the Jews of Scripture, the real Jews. But right, that information has been stripped from the world for this whole entire period of time. So in the carnal, he's talking about us in that regard. But see, in the spiritual, soon come, he's talking about the subsequent white man. He's talking about these nations that put their hands on us. All these things that he's saying is going to flip on them. And the remembrance of the Edomites are going to cease from among men. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. So basically, he was telling our ancestors that he contemplated what the result would be if he had destroyed all of the Israelites and he had taken away all the Israelites. He contemplated that the enemy, these other nations, these Gentiles, would basically take credit for the befalling of the Israelites, and that they would basically be magnified in their own eyes. Not that they're going to give recognition and kudos to the Most High. No. He was reasoning that they're not going to do that. Even when he punishes Israel, which he did, they haven't given him honor and glory and recognition for his righteousness in doing so. These are the nations, the so-called Edomites, subsequent white man. These are the nations, Ammon, Moab, Ishmael, basically, all the other nations have taken the credit themselves, and they say, look what we have done. And they said, Esau rules the world, and they're doing circles and dances on the street based on how masterfully we were brought down, and they're taking it as if it was them. And the Most High is basically saying here that it wasn't them, it was him. And he's contemplating the fact that they would do that. But it's going to be to no avail to them, because ultimately, what's 400 years compared to like eternity, right? Personally, I'm 38 years old. I turned 40 at the end of the 400-year curse. What's 38 years compared to eternity in hell? For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. Right now, again, this is carnal as well as spiritual. Carnally, he's talking about our ancestors, that generation that he's referring to, that had no faith, you know.
Yazriel, they took her. They took Lambew. They hope to stop the rebirth of Israel, to stop the prophecy from being fulfilled. We cannot allow them to win, Yazriel. The battle between the forces of good and the powers of evil have been fought for millennia. You are the last of the Israelites, chosen people of the Most High. It is up to you now to stand against the darkness, to bear the glorious light of truth. There isn't much time. The end of this world is coming. The dawn of a new age is upon us. An age of endless possibilities and potential. A new world that shall be ruled by either Israel or the powers of evil. As we speak, they gather together. Champion, you are all that stands in the way of evil, Yazriel. This is the time. This is your destiny. The God of Israel will be with us.
That were rebellious, that chased after these other nations or whatever, not, and ultimately were given up. He was saying that they should think about the latter end of what was going to happen to them by provoking the Most High with their abominations and so forth and so forth. But in the spirit, he's also talking about the suffocating white man, these other nations, and that they had choices. They didn't have to do all the things they did, and that they should have considered the latter end. Like, for instance, it talks about in the scriptures written how basically Esau, once he came into power, he didn't even think about how his latter end would be, his story would end. As soon as he came into power, he forgot about all the other stuff. Right? Okay, so let's continue. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and the Lord had shut them up? So basically, the Most High gave Israel much power, and the fact that Israel got scattered and all that kind of stuff was because of the Most High. It wasn't for any other reason. But their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. So basically he flipped over the dominion that Israel had to these other nations. As we heard a little earlier on, while he was contemplating what would be the ultimate goal or action, what would happen because of his decision to punish the Israelites because of our sins. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. America is Sodom and Gomorrah. Most High didn't give us over to some righteous people. These Edomites aren't righteous. They like you to think that they're righteous. They like you to think that they're somebody of God, but they're not. It's evident in their actions, it's evident in the laws that they're passing, been passing, it's evident in the real history that they have. Anybody who's actually studying real history, not the garbage they teach you in school, but the real history that comes from the scriptures, and real history that comes from what they did in slavery, what they did to so-called Indians, what they did to aboriginals of every continent. Okay. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. I just thought it interesting. If you take away the one S from asps, you get apes. In regards to the Neanderthal DNA that something a white man has in his genome. But anyway. But yeah, dragons. That's another name, another way of identifying something white man. Is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come up on them make haste. All right, now I want you to understand, recruit, that how this carnality, how the carnal works with this, and how the spiritual works. Okay, in the carnal, the Most High is talking about our ancestors, those who turned away from Him, that generation that He was referring to, that foolish generation He was referring to. But in the spirit, He's talking about today as well. Remember, all of these curses that the Most High put on us, when the Most High redeems Israel, shall be placed double on our enemies, our adversaries. So in a sense, by understanding these curses, the Most High, these things the Most High was saying to our people who had the dominion back in the day, is a way of, by understanding that better, you'll understand better what's coming to the self-proclaimed white man, what's coming to their dominion soon come, what's coming to all these other nations, these Gentiles, these heathens. All right, and that's one of the things that Most High have me say carnal, and then going to the spiritual. That's one of those. That's also what it represents. That's also what it shows. Right? It's showing what the Most High was saying to us, and how He was describing how our ancestors would lose the dominion. And through understanding of that, you understand what's going to happen to the self-proclaimed white man, the Edomites of Scripture, and what's gonna befall them when they lose their dominion. Okay? Alright, so let's continue. And of course, calamity is going to happen to them, as it's saying here, and those things are making haste. Every day gets closer and closer to the crash of the dollar in the system. Every day is getting closer and closer to martial law being implemented in all 50 states, just like they implemented gay marriage, right? Every day, their calamity is between war breaking out between the superpowers, and not just having an economic warfare element to World War III, but actual hand-to-hand combat, nukes, the new combat. All those things is getting closer. The calamities for this country is getting closer, faster and faster, making haste, so to speak. For the Lord shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants when he seeth that their power is gone, and there is none shut up or left. So, well, the Most High said all these things would befall his people. Nothing comes back to him that he has said void. So he's talking about what's going to happen when everything that he said came to pass, and our ancestors was kicked out of Jerusalem, kicked out of the land of milk and honey, and they were actually scattered, and there was no one left, right? When all these things that he said came to pass. And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. So now he's basically saying all these abominations that our ancestors did, and following and chasing after these other gods or whatever not. He's like, you know what? When all this stuff comes upon you, why don't you go ahead and pray to them, talk to them, because our ancestors was wicked towards him, and they were rebellious, and they were they had no faith. And he's basically saying, well, you know what? He's going to use this tribulation that he's putting together, so that you know that he is the Most High and that there's none other. See now that even I am he, and there is no God with me. See, there he is. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. See, he's saying just that everything that he has done has been to show Israel that he is God and that there's no other but him. To show Israel and to motivate and to teach Israel to put their faith in him and not to put their faith in all these other things. By him saying he killed and maketh alive, he's saying basically, that he killed us, right? He killed us in terms of taking away our heritage, taking away our land, taking away our identity, and then throwing us in the mix with all these heathens. And he said he make alive again. He's basically saying, you know what? He is the one that cast us out. He is the one that has scattered us. And he has the power to redeem us, to give us back our land, to give us back our language, to give us back our culture, to give us back our heritage. Him and him alone. That's why it says he wounds and he heals. He wounded us by allowing our enemies to overcome and overtake us, and by putting us in the hands of the supplicant white man. Alright? And he can heal us and take us out of his hands. And that's why he said, neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. He's saying that when he turns, when he put us and scattered us, our ancestors didn't have the power to stop him. And when he redeems us, praise be to Yah, and puts the supplicant white man and these other nations into our hands, no one's going to have the power to save them, because it's going to be of the Most High. He's the one doing it. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. Right? Most High can't die, doesn't die. If I whet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment. I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and I will reward them that hate me. He's threatening all these other nations for what they did to his children. Because they couldn't hurt the Most High. But when we lost the dominion, they decided to attack the Most High by attacking us, by attacking the children of God, and to try to hurt him by hurting us. Verse 42. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Alright, now again in the carnal, he's referring to the captives. Our ancestors died on the trip during the transatlantic slave trade. Our ancestors was lynched, murdered, killed, thrown into to be fed by the fishes. Our children were fed to the crocodiles. But in the spiritual, he's talking about what's going to befall our enemies, the enemies of the Most High. When the children of God get the dominion, what's going to happen to the supplicant white man? What's going to happen to these other nations that have been our enemy and that have been his enemy by coming against us? Verse number 43. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. See, that's exactly what the Spirit was already saying, right? Exactly what it's saying. That, in the carnal, he was talking about the past, but in the Spirit, he's talking about the future, and he's talking about what's going to happen to the nations. And he's saying they're going to rejoice with the children of Israel. Who's going to be rejoicing? The ones who are rejoicing with the children of Israel are going to be those who cling onto the heel of Israel, the toe jam, the bootstraps of Israel, and who are led out of this nation with Israel to the land of milk and honey. They're going to be the ones that are rejoicing because they're not going to have to go through all the garbage, all the revenge, all the blood, all the guts that the Most High is setting up for everybody else. They're going to have their own thing they're going to go through. Most High said that they're going to deliver them into our hands, and no man shall hinder us. But they're not going to have to go through the stuff that the Most High has in store for these other nations. Alright. Verse 44. And Moses came and spake all the words of this song in the ears of the people, he and Hosea the son of Nun. And Moses made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. So again, Moses was letting them know what they were going to do, what was going to happen to them in the land of milk and honey, how they were going to get fat and get basically overjoyed with all this stuff and forget the rock of their salvation, forget the Most High, and start chasing after all these devils and diverse pleasures and whatnot, and how he's ultimately was going to kick them out of the land of milk and honey because of them forgetting him and being rebellious and turning against them. But he was also telling them about how he was going to come back. During that time, he was going to hide his face from Israel. During the 40 years, he was going to hide his face from us. But how he ultimately was going to come back and redeem his children, redeem his people, and punish all those who fought against him by fighting against us. That's right. And he said unto them, set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which ye shall command your children to observe to do all the words of the law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. And through this thing ye shall prolong your days in the land whither ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Lord spake unto Moses and said that self same day, saying, Get thee up into the mountain Abiram unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. And die in the mount, whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Or, and was gathered unto his people. Because ye trespassed against me among the children of Israel, at the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because ye sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Yet thou shalt see the land before thee, but thou shalt not go thither unto the land which I give the children of Israel. See, it's a very important precept, right? To understand, recruit, that not everybody's going to make it to the land of milk and honey. And make sure that in all that you do to edify the Most High, or you do to for His glory, not your own. With the children of Israel, especially with the children of Israel, dealing with these jakes out there on those street corners. That's why Most High has His teaching. One of the many reasons why the Most High has His teaching not to accept tithes and offerings of money, not to gainsay this truth, or gainsay your people, not to try to edify yourself, not to try to lift yourself up in the hearts and the minds of the children of Israel, because it's the Most High that need be edified in all things. It's the Most High that has brought us all this way, and need to get the credit. If anyone's to get the credit, it's Him and Him alone, right? It's He that should get the credit, that gets the credit for teaching this truth, for waking up the children of Israel, for making it available and arming the children of Israel with this word against our many enemies, our many diverse enemies. It's He who gets the credit, not us, not me, not you, recruit. You know? Because without Him, none of this would have been possible. None of this would be even capable of happening. There have been many different movements that have crashed and burned. You know, conscious movement, Black Power movement, all kinds of Black Panther movement, and all these different kinds of movements that the children of Israel has tried without the Most High, and they have all failed. But where they have failed, the Israelites of Scripture shall succeed. Not because we have such captivating leadership, because we don't. Not because we have such captivating organizational skills, because we don't. Not because we have such talented teachers, captivating teachers, shall I say, because we don't. But because of the Most High God. Because the Most High is with us. Because the Most High is the one doing all these things. And because the Most High can't fail. And won't fail. That's why it's so important, recruit, to remember Him in all things, and remember who you serve, and remember who you represent, and remember who it is that is really making all this stuff possible, and really doing all this work and making it fruitful. And that's the Most High. It's not you, it's not me, it's not us, it's not flesh and bone. Because flesh and bone, can be stopped, can be destroyed, can be, jailed, can be killed. But the Most High can't be stopped. And you and I, recruit, must have our faith in the Most High and Him alone to make sure all these things come to pass that He said will come to pass. And that is our faith that it will in fact come to pass. And it's happening already. It's manifesting from the spirit realm to the flesh. From the flesh to the spirit. It's manifesting through and through. Alright, what we got here? Alright, let's go over two more different items here. Let's go to Moses died and was buried in the land of Moab, but no one knows where. Now this is turn me to chapter 34. We're going to read verse 5 and 6. Chapter 34, verse 5 and 6. And it says, So Moses So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor. But no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. Why does no man know it? Because the Most High himself buried him. The Most High buried him. Just like the Most High shut the door of the ark for Noah. Noah sure in hell didn't shut it himself. It's too big, it was too heavy, it was too grandiose. So Most High did it himself. Just like burying yourself in the, is a bit impossible, but the Most High did it himself. Most High did it. And it shows the determination of the man of God, that he would go to the very mountain, that he would walk the very path that the Most High had already told him would be his last walk, would be his last trek, would be his last Shirah. That the man of God would do, even though in doing so marked his own personal physical death. That shows faith, that takes courage, that the world will never truly understand, or may never truly understand. Just like the most.
If you aren't subscribed to the Lambew YouTube channel, Sakuma 08, then you don't know what you are missing.
next one I think is going to be what? Number five. So, King of the Fly. But until then, we will see you again next time. All right. But the children of God understand it, because again, every single time these so-called Negroes, these Jews of Scripture, the Israelites of the Bible, take to the streets to preach the Most High's word and truth, we know we're going up against the enemies of the Most High. We know we're going up against these devils. We know what they're capable of in terms of what the Most High has prepared us for. Some of our people get arrested. Some of our people get heckled, and our enemies come against us every single time we're out there. And even knowing all that stuff before we even take a step out in those streets, the children of God, the representation of the Most High, those of us who published His name on our lives and in our walk, go out anyway. Praise be to Yah, because we're not doing it for anyone other than the Most High. And if anyone gets the credit, praise be to Yah, let it be Him. He gets the credit. Our last thing we're going to go over is Yah knew Moses face to face, chapter 34, verse 10. Now, no man knew the Most High face to face as written in the New Testament. So let's go ahead and see what the Most High is talking about. But it is He spoke in Moses' ear. Alright, and like the Most High said, when it comes to publishing His name, his walk, Moses' walk, the man of God's walk, shows the relationship of the man of God. His walk. It's not that be literal. It's not literal. Right? I mean, Most High showed Moses his backside on the mountain, right? He didn't show him his face, that no man may see the face of the Most High and live. But let's see what he's saying right here. It says, verse 10 goes, and there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. He's talking about his walk. He's talking about how he represented the Most High. If you remember, the Most High said that he would be like God to the Israelites, or to the Pharaoh and whatever or not. So he's referring to his ability to represent the Most High. And in representing the Most High, he represented him like unto someone who seen the Most High, talked to the Most High face to face. It's not literal, but it's spiritual, supernatural. And that's how we have to be, to the best of our ability, to recruit in our life and in our walk with the Most High, as someone who is a friend of the Most High, who is with the Most High face to face, as someone whom the Most High has published His name on, as someone who represents the Most High and is the Most High's inheritance, as someone who is not just of the flesh, right? Because 2/3 of Israel, Yah said, is going to perish, and they're Israelites of the flesh, and for them, the flesh profit them nothing in comparison to someone else who isn't of the flesh, but gets into the land of milk and honey and serves Israel and is in proximity of the Spirit of the Most High because of being in the land of milk and honey with Israel. Much better than somebody who is of the flesh of Israel, but out on the outside, on the outdoors, beating on the doors, asking to get in, but not being allowed to. Right? So to the best of your ability, recruit, Yah willing, you'll take this to heart, and you'll look at yourself and your walk and your road and the work that the Most High is having you do, and make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, that you're representing Him and your relationship with Him for His glory, not your own. Right? And continue to read and study to show yourself approved, because, as it is written, no man lives by bread alone, but by the very word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High. So thank you for watching the Word of the Most High Yah. I'm your host, Priest of the Most High, Lucifer D. Lambew, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.
It's not destroyed, actually. What they would call it, you're whitewashed. Okay. There was a Renaissance period of time where they basically took the conquering nation, basically took the image of Christ, which is black. And in Revelation they tell you what and they made him look white. And they made the Bible look white. We'll talk about that. Jews are an olive color. Do you know what the word Jew comes from? Yeah, what the word Jew comes from? What's the word Jew short for? But you know that they're olive color, but you don't know what the name of them comes from. I'll answer that question first. The name of Jews comes from the house of Judah. And the house of Judah, incidentally, of the Negroes here in America. We are from the house of Judah as put forth in the truth. There's nothing scriptural that tells us it's okay that you don't agree with it, because truth is truth whether you want to accept it or not. If you don't believe,
I know that, that's why I'm listening. That's why I'm saying tolerate you.
You don't have to tolerate me, because it's not my truth. It's the truth of the Bible, the very book that you say you represent. You can say to yourself, I don't believe this aspect, I don't believe that aspect, but you're not going against me, you're going against the very book that you say you're here to preach, teach, and show us. Because they told me, I didn't write that, I'm not the author of that.
I'm not one of your church.
The author of that. I'm not a church.
Yeah, I'm not one of your stewards. I'm a teacher, so I don't need you to try to take it.
Okay.
You understand that?
Okay.
Don't try to
You say that you're a teacher. Fine,
I don't want you to try to teach.
So when you say you're a teacher,
Yes, sir.
the question is this. Okay.
In your mind,
As a teacher,
this is the question in your
sure,
mind.
but if you're a teacher, then you're here to
This is the question in your
teach.
mind.
So how can you teach if you can't answer questions for which potential students may ask you? You're a teacher, so could you teach the $1 million question that's on the hearts and minds of the Negroes in this country, which is where they come from? It's in